state of West Virginia, then basically I always have said, okay, put your team together. They're will and pleasure. If they screw up and they're bad, you're going to be held accountable, and in 4 years the people can atone that. So I've been very differential. I'm going to look at each one of them. There might be some that I don't agree with. I will be able to let the Biden administration know how I feel, but we haven't done the personal interviews yet before we confirm. I look forward to that.
Senator Manchin, thank you. Thanks for joining us, and good luck this week in coming.
First of all, the Government Accountability Office reported that at least $4 billion in jobless benefits frauds has been formally determined by the state unemployment services, while at least $45 billion in payments have been flagged for potential fraud by the U.S. Department of Labor. This cannot be interpreted as the extent of the problem, though. The report provides the latest insight in the numerous schemes to steal money from a range of ideas of hastily implemented crisis relief programs. Things are hastily implemented? No. It comes a week before newly powered in-House Republicans are making their investigation into this effort. The House Oversight Committee also said that it's possible this could happen. The committee, chaired by Representatives James Comer, sent letters to the Department of Labor and its Inspector General's office, as well as state labor departments in California, New York, and Pennsylvania. He said, we owe it to Americans to identify how thousands of billions of dollars is going under the guise of crisis relief. There are lost, waste, money, fraud, mismanagement, a lot of things that are going crazy. Also want to say this, folks, a key component of the relief effort was a federal weekly supplement for out-of-work Americans. If you're out of work, don't worry, we got stimulus just for you, because a total of $900 billion in crisis unemployment benefits were paid from April through September 2022. It's a lot of money just for you guys. Now, what I'm saying, folks, is that the department has yet to develop an anti-fraud strategy, and they addressed that the 6 recommendations from the Government Accountability Office, known as the GAO, because Government Accountability Office added the unemployment insurance system to its high-risk, high-reward list last June. In response, the Department of Labor said that it proceeded with implementing the recommendations during 2022. It's also working to develop an unemployment insurance fraud risk profile in accordance with the GAO framework. The GAO latest report estimates that it's about one released by the Labor Department of Inspector General Office in September. The latter said that $45 billion in crisis unemployment benefits may have been fraudulently filed, and that means people can get their stimulus canceled. That's not what we want to hear, but I'm just telling you guys, don't blame me, because President Biden should definitely do better than this.
Let me start just by making certain that I tell you something that I think I need to say on behalf of Kansans. I've never seen the level of anxiety, uncertainty, concern for the future as I see today when I have conversations with folks in my neighborhood and across Kansas. There's a sense that something's not right. Inflation is a significant component of that feeling, and the inability to know what's around the corner is terribly damaging to folks, both financially but also mentally or psychologically. There's a real circumstance out there that I want you as the chairman and your colleagues to know exists. It is, I think, uncertainty and what the future holds is one of the most damaging things when people try to figure out their lives and how comfortable they are. I also want to highlight a particular Kansas, but middle America, across the country, issue of agriculture. I was on a farm on Saturday, participating in, observing harvest of wheat. We live in a world in which people are starving, and more are going to starve if we are unable to, if we fail to get more grain into markets from Ukraine and from Russia, but from the United States as well. Agriculture, farming is a noble calling, and it has a lot to do with being able to feed people.
Country have their own stimulus check, so let's get most important news first. It's not clear if President Biden's latest announcement that he's releasing from the oil nation's emergency stockpile will help bring gas prices down. So the national average of gas stood at $3.85 a gallon and down 2 cents from Tuesday. So one of the biggest factors in the recent price surge of gasoline has been refineries across the country shutting down either for regular maintenance or following accidents. Now, a number of West Coast refineries that had been offline have returned to operations, and that has sparked a plunge in gas prices west of the Rocky Mountains, driving down the national average. And just last week, the average price in California has fallen 30 cents a gallon, and there's been a 25-cent drop in Oregon and a 20-cent dip in Washington and Nevada. All the refineries dealing with accident repairs won't be back online anytime soon. Those that have been closed for reschedule and maintenance are now near to resuming operations. According to the experts, that will likely lead to lower prices elsewhere in the nation. And even if the drop isn't as precipitous as it has been out west, oil and gas futures fell in Tuesday's trading after word got out that President Biden announced 15 million barrels of oil will be released. And that represented just another phase of the planned release of 180 million barrels of gas over 6 months being released in late March. Oil analysts have also said the markets initially moved due to confusion over whether or not the oil was coming out of strategic reserves. So millions of inflation relief checks actually started going out to taxpayers in California. So the middle class tax refund, as it's called, can be as much as $1,000 depending on your income, residency and filing status, and household status as well. It's part of a $12 billion relief effort that Governor Gavin Newsom prioritizes getting dollars back into the pockets of Californians that are grappling with inflation. So I know many of you guys are wondering whether you qualify for this check. Well, currently about 23 million residents are eligible for the rebate plan, which has been up and set up in 3 tiers based on just the gross income of your 2020 tax return. In addition to their income requirements, residents must have filed their 2020 tax return and refund by the middle of October and have lived in the state of California for at least half of the 2020 year. Individual filers earn more than $250,000, and couples who made more than $500,000 are not eligible for a payment. But here's more news about this. With rent, food prices, and utility bills going up, families could use some extra cash. Inflation is stressing people's budgets big time, and according to the Washington Post, if you're struggling and didn't file a tax return this year, definitely be sure to check. Last week, the IRS started sending letters to the 9 million households who may be eligible for several lucrative tax benefits, including the third round of checks worth as much as $1,400 if you didn't get the full payment or amount of the crisis check. Under the American Rescue Plan, you can still claim the credit and actually get it paid to you. The IRS faces a daunting task amid the crisis to reach millions of people who don't typically file tax returns but could get the stimulus checks. So, who knows? You guys could be one of them, so be sure to qualify. In addition to the stimulus payments, households that file a 2021 return may be eligible for the child tax credit as well.
This relief bill doesn't comply with budget rules. Now, in order to move forward with the wage increase, House Democrats would have to remove the language from the bill before it is passed on Friday or garner support for the bill in the Senate. As for the president, well, Jen Psaki said this: he's disappointed in this outcome. How about Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker? She said Democrats in the House are determined to pursue every possible path in the fight for 15. And in a statement posted via Twitter, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
And while Sanders acknowledged the microchip shortage, which is raising prices and costing workers their jobs, does pose problems for regular Americans, he maintained that handling corporations' money with no strings attached isn't the way to solve it. Sanders suggested that Congress should work with microchip companies to address workers' and taxpayers' concerns. The number of Americans